You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today, it's just us knuckleheads, although next week, I wanted to remind everybody we have Michelle LeMay, who's going to talk to us about Constitution Day here in Sacramento and what they're going to do for that event. But get back to this show. Today, we're going to talk about breaking political norms because, boy, have we got a lot of stuff that's happening out there with gerrymandering. We've got people talking about adding on Supreme Court justices and adding states and just every little thing you can think of that, while legal, it's sort of breaking the norms of what we think of as our political process. And we'll talk about some other issues as well, too, especially the recent executive order against burning the American flag. And finally, how well Gavin Newsom does in trying to attract business to California will be our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. But before we get into any of that stuff, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California.
Fresh from safety.
My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. Now, we always start off the show with our Liberty quote of the day, and I thought this one was kind of appropriate, so I'm going to bring that up. This time it is Friedrich Nietzsche, and I just learned the pronunciation correctly for that. But I have loved a lot of his quotes in the past, so but I thought this one was particularly appropriate if you think about it correctly. He says, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. And you know what, I think about this, and you know, both sides kind of imagine that, you know, when we think about this dichotomy of red and blue, they imagine they're the good guys, but the lengths they will go to fight the other side so turns them all into the monsters to some degree. I think one side, you know, I almost think about it too with that Lord of the Rings analogy, you know, that, you know, both sides want to grasp the power of government to really whack the other side with, although I think that's a little more baked in on the blue team. But boy, I tell you, to me, this really seems like an appropriate type of quote that we all need to think a little bit about as we start destroying the norms of the system in order just to win. What do you guys think about this particular quote?
I think it rings so true. It's unbelievable, and I think we have some very good examples in our society ongoing right now. If you look at in 2020. Black Lives Matter was one of those organizations that was placed on this high pedestal. But Black Lives Matter was just a continuation of the civil rights movement. And the civil rights movement, we all cherish it, you know, Martin Luther King and all the sacrifices he made to bring rights and voting rights and basic civil rights to Black Americans and to other Americans also. But Black Lives Matter and all these organizations who thought that they were standing up for social justice and blah, 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 they attached themselves to that whole civil rights movement of the 60s. But they became some greedy monsters. They were burning down our cities and still claiming that they're doing this for the people. They are trying to set things right. They were burning down the cities. They were stealing money. And up to now, none of them have been prosecuted, by the way. They should be. And this is the sort of thing that this guy is talking about. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Friedrich Nietzsche or whatever. This is what he's talking about. Yes. You're trying to fight the monsters in our society, and then you yourself become a monster in the process. And it's a very good lesson that we all should learn, because I'm sure there are many of us who dream about having absolute power. If I only have absolute power, I'll make everything right. I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. It never works out that way. When you have absolute power, it will corrupt you absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were watching a special on militias, private militias in the United States, and so they went and compared them to the militias that have been operating for quite a long time in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for the same reasons. The breakdown of the government corrupt, can't protect the people, so the people are these militias spring up in these neighborhoods and they they're ostensibly to control crime, but they they become quite monstrous themselves in the process, and it's hard to tell the difference between the criminals and the militia people that's supposedly protecting their the rights of the ordinary citizen. And so the lesson is, watch out, America, for these private militias might end up the same way. And so this reminds me of that in a way. And other than getting distracted by his mustache, that's quite unruly.
That's what happened to him, Tim, when he gazed into the abyss so long.
Yeah. Right. Not only does your mustache grow to hideous lengths, but you have no reason to trim it. So his hair's nicely trimmed, but anyway, stop there. Yeah, it's a great quote. It definitely it describes a lot of things going on today with this political climate where it's crazy. Anyway.
Well, this is how our society becomes monstrous, is when social justice and all these other fake games of compassion, when those things, when social justice and these other things start to stand above the rule of law, and that's when the monsters come out. That's when you see the monstrous behavior of some of the people. Yeah. And this is a very dangerous thing. But yeah, I totally agree with this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And grabbing that ring of power is oftentimes, we find out, it's not the solution that's cracked up to be. A lot of times the people that were going to save us turn out to be problematic themselves. But let's look a little bit into that abyss today now and get into some of these topics. So one of the big topics that we wanted to cover, and this has been in the news quite a bit lately, is the redistricting war and the gerrymandering war. So you cannot miss that in the news nowadays. Texas sort of started it during this midterm. Not that they're the first to ever get involved in gerrymandering, but they've kind of broken the norm, which is kind of what we're talking about today, breaking the norms by doing this in between, what do you call it, censuses.
Census, yes.
Things happen during the right after the census, when everybody knows exactly what the new population is. And then nobody usually does anything about it until another 10 years go by and we get a new census. But anyways, let's jump into a video that'll help give us a little bit of background on this issue, and then we'll talk about it some more.
This proposed map could decide which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives.
President Trump understands that his majority in the U.S. House is very narrow.
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
The Texas map is designed to give Republicans 5 more seats in Congress. Here's a breakdown of those districts that sparked a gerrymandering arms race.
We have got to meet fire with fire.
And how Democrat-controlled California plans to neutralize it.
So let's hear a little first about what's going on in Texas.
We have the authority legally under redistricting law to draw districts that align with the voter preferences.
This is a very rare case of mid-decade redistricting where the parties in power, specifically in this case the Texas Republicans, wants to redraw something that they already had a hand in making. Currently there are 25 Republican seats. Democrats hold 12. One of those seats is also vacant. That is a seat that used to be held by a Democrat. So functionally Democrats have 13 seats to Republicans 25.
So in Texas, they've already finished this process. It's done. And now it's just a matter of who votes for who in these new districts. But in California, let's see what's going on there.
We're talking about emergency measures to respond to what's happening in Texas, and we will nullify what happens in Texas. We will pick up 5 seats with the consent of the people.
Texas's effort has provoked a Democratic response throughout the country, and there's no place where that's more apparent than in California. A lot of Republicans are already pretty upset with the current congressional map in California, which gives Democrats 43 seats and Republicans 9 seats out of its 52. But the thing that needs to happen is the state legislature needs to approve the map for a special election that voters would then have the opportunity to vote on whether or not they wanted to implement it. And this process really hasn't been done before. So you can almost certainly expect Republicans are going to try and litigate this either to the state courts in California or potentially even to the federal courts, who could end up ruling in their favor.
So the big difference in California is that they actually have to overcome constitutional changes that they made to their districting process in appointing an independent board to do this. Yet somehow still appears to be a little bit gerrymandered, but that's California. Let's hear what's happening in all the other places around the country as well.
We have a couple of other states where we'll pick up seats also.
President Donald Trump has already made it pretty clear he doesn't intend to stop at Texas, and he's already started putting pressure on a number of other states to undergo similar processes. In Missouri and Indiana, there are 2 seats that Republicans are looking to take from Democrats. In Florida, it could be around 3, and potentially in Ohio, somewhere between 2 and 3.
New York, with its 26 congressional seats, could also become a potential flashpoint in the redistricting fight.
This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
At this point, it's not really clear whether or not there's actually time for Democrats in New York to be able to implement a new map. It's certainly possible for 2028, but in terms of the midterm landscape, I think it's a big question mark. A lot of people have talked about the possibility of this turning into sort of a nuclear arms race. We still have a ways to go before we get there, but one thing is clear. We are headed in a trajectory that we have not really seen in the past.
So there you have it. And one thing I did want to throw up there as well is, a lot of times people are saying who started what, and one of the things, obviously they're saying that the Republicans broke the norm here in Texas first, but if you do want to look at gerrymandering, I did a little bit of an analysis here for just California and Texas, and you go to Ballotpedia and you can figure out the number of representatives for Democrats in both Texas and California. And so what I did is I looked at how people voted for Trump and Kamala. This seems to be a standard Republican argument that's going on right now. And then you look at the representation in the state currently, and that's what I have in the first 2 lines here. And you can see that even though, like, for instance, in California, there were almost 40% voting for Trump, in the end, they have less than 20% of the House members. And it's not nearly as big of a gap with Texas, even though there's also a gap there, which means that, hey, the parties in control tend to set the map in a way that really benefits them. In California, it's a lot bigger. And if they were to gerrymander these, it shows you that the gap gets to be a lot bigger between, how many were essentially would have voted for Trump and yet don't appear to be represented by those same representatives. And same thing with Texas too, with Kamala Harris. So anyways, I just wanted to throw this out there to you guys. So what do you guys think of this arms race and gerrymandering and just massively, I guess, polarizing all of our states here?
Timmy can go.
Wow. Yeah. Political stuff like this just kind of bores me, I have to admit. And it's just your typical tribal behavior. If one starts out, then the other one says, oh, you can't do that. It's a threat to democracy. But if they were doing it, it'd be hunky-dory and everything's fine. So, it's, they're all getting angry at the other party that whatever starts it. Should they, I don't know, should they do this? I don't know. I guess that's a good question. Leon, what do you think? I mean, should redistricting be part of the process constantly? Should it be shifting depending on the votes that actually come in for the various candidates, or what? What do you think?
Well, honestly, I really do wish. Well, let me first say, I'll answer your question, Tim. But let me first say there are no good guys in this fight, okay? Really and truly. I will not say the Republicans are good guys here. I will not say the Democrats are good guys. Well, the Democrats they're almost always never good guys. But that aside, but should we have something like this? Yes, we should have redistricting from time to time. Population are changing. the people are moving in and out of states and that kind of stuff. So it becomes necessary to do it. The question is how we do this. And this is where this whole nastiness of gerrymandering starts. Because everybody is looking for a way to acquire power and to retain power. That's all they're trying to do. This is a power play straight up. And everybody's trying to do it. The thing that is, I mean, the Republicans are doing it in Texas right now because they control the legislature. And of course, they're going to control the maps. And they think they can get some seats out of it. And Trump won the seats, of course, because of the fact the Republicans have a very slim majority in the House of Representatives. But the Democrats are now acting now. They're now jumping up and down like, oh my God, nobody have done this. This is a threat to democracy. When they've been engaged in gerrymandering just as much as the Republicans for as long as our memories can take us. Look at Illinois or look at New York. Talk about states that are so gerrymandering. A Republican don't even have a chance in these places. Missouri, a Democrat don't have a chance in Missouri these days. It used to be, but now things have shifted around. People have moved around. The maps have been changed over the years. And now Missouri is a solid red state. Florida, you could argue, that have become this way also, a solid red state. Some of it is because of the movement of people. Some of it is because of gerrymandering. So everybody is doing this nonsense, and everybody is trying to tilt the map to favor their party. What I would like, and this is where I'm just throwing this out, is that we should all have some rules by which they set the maps within the states. But I know this is something constitutionally that is a matter for the states. But there should be some rules, some broad rules about what, how, and what conditions under what conditions you can draw lines. Even if you want to do it midterm, between the census, as Texas is doing, I would have liked to see some general rules by which everybody must follow those rules, essentially. I'm not saying it have to be very specific or tie the hands of the legislators of the state, but it must be specific enough that you can't see these grotesque shapes that we have, just so that you could get a group of people together who will vote Democrat, or another grotesque shape of a map to see, like, so somebody will vote for a Democrat. So this people will vote for a Democrat. I mean, to me, like a simple proposal, and I'm just showing this other course, is that if we can go use the somewhat permanent lines of the counties. Okay, we still have to divide up some counties, and we have to draw maps, draw lines within the counties. But we have 3,100 counties and parishes in the United States. I think we could have used those things as starting blocks to form districts, instead of these grotesque things we see, that things running up a highway to connect with somebody 50 miles, 100 miles away. So and with some, it's all within the state, but sometimes they connect with people who don't have any common interest. It's just ridiculous. So,
well, Liam, let me show you real quick. This is California has this. This is the current map, I guess, for California as far as the districts go, and the AP put out this map that shows what it will turn into after essentially if this thing gets voted on in California, that the Democrats recently put together. So this is what it would look like, all through the magic of simply remapping. So that's that's literally what it would do. Just trying to see that a few more people are in one county than another. I would say though that because of those numbers I showed earlier, that the fact that there were bigger, it appears to be more gerrymandered already in California, means that there's probably the margins aren't extremely big. I think that this is the issue, right? I mean, I think if Texas wanted to gerrymander even more, I think they could actually get more seats, and I think that's one of the things that Greg Abbott said in a recent interview is, well, if California's going to do this, then we're just going to remap it again. which is just, it's just kind of nuts, and it shows you where this stuff is going. But before I wanted to squeeze this in for those people who are watching us on public access. In California, the way that they are mapping this, because this is supposed to be, this is something that we took out of the hands of the politicians before, and we said
supposedly,
yeah, supposedly, and it was supposed to be an independent commission, commission that was doing this. And anyways, it's still pretty slanted, as you can kind of see by those numbers. But the whole point was they wanted to take it out of politicians' hands, so they couldn't do essentially like what they're doing in Texas right now. And this is kind of nuts, right? I mean, KCRA 3, that's our local Sacramento news station, was trying to get an answer from them about who drew these maps. And I think it was a fascinating little eye into this about how sort of corrupt these transparent processes they claim are. So let's watch this video they put together. I've sort of edited it down a little bit, but I thought this was pretty remarkable what their findings were.
In that special election, who can California voters look to specifically when they want to know who put these new congressional districts together? It really was not clear in any of the hearings today. Both the state Senate and Assembly Elections Committees had a lengthy discussion on the redistricting push overall. A reminder that this is happening as California already has an independent redistricting commission that is responsible for doing this work after the census. California voters took the power away from politicians nearly 2 decades ago because they didn't like that lawmakers were drawing districts for themselves. So with that, I asked both the Democratic leaders of each elections committee who is responsible for drawing these new proposed congressional districts.
So we're going to start by hearing what Gail Pellerin from the Democrat side on the Assembly has to say about it.
Governor Gavin Newsom promised that no special interests or this would be transparent. This would not be done in a back room. So we're trying to ascertain in this very short amount of time that you have to deliberate this, who exactly are the maps responsible for?
Happening very quickly, and the folks that were drawing the maps went back to the Independent Redistricting Commission's testimony and what they heard during their time when they were deliberating this, and they themselves ran out of time to do.
Since Gail said she's running out of time, we're going to speed up her rather lengthy answers, where I guess you're going to find out that she takes a long time to say nothing.
The work that they needed to do. And so we're basing these on the Voting Rights Act, and we're looking at really bringing the voters into this process. And that's why we're going to an election on November 4th, because at the end of the day, the voters' voice is what matters.
In case you haven't caught it, she still hasn't told us.
We're asking because voters back in 2008 and 2010 took the power away from politicians to draw maps because they did not like that it was an incumbent protection plan. So we just need to know. I mean, that's why we're asking.
These are definitely unusual times. We are no longer governing in a democracy. We're governing in an authoritarian government. We are seeing things that we care so deeply about California. We have education, food for children, our immigrant community, our LGBT community. They're getting decimated by this administration. This is an all-out assault on California's democracy and rights and values. So we have to move quickly. But we are bringing the voters onto this process. We're letting them know that the maps have been posted on the website. We have this election on November 4th. And at the end of the day, the voters will decide what is important to them, whether they want to adjust these maps to give California the voice it needs in Congress.
She still hasn't told us.
And you said whether or not state lawmakers involved in drawing the maps. Any state lawmakers at all?
Not to my knowledge.
But so then who adjusted them last night at 8 p.m.?
It was my understanding that they were by 8 a.m. They were out there.
No, Monday there's an
adjustment. There was a collaboration, but we can get to the people that actually did that work.
So then why does the legislation say the detailed maps are prepared by the Assembly and State Senate Elections Committees?
So the reality is that it was a collaboration, and we can get those specifics, but I think what's most important is the maps are out there for people to see, to evaluate, to make a judgment on. The lines are the lines.
Madam Chair, but when you consume something, don't you want to know who makes it? When you are presented with something, don't you want to know where it's coming from? Don't voters deserve to know?
When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef.
Well, it's clear we aren't getting anything from Gail over in the Assembly. Let's see how our luck goes with Sabrina Cervantes, Democrat representing the Senate side of this process.
So did this committee meet then to draw the lines? I mean, we're just trying to ascertain who exactly is responsible for drawing these maps at this point. So the criteria has remained the same from the CRC. 76% of the districts remain the same, and that is what Californians will see. There are many folks, stakeholders, who have had an input on the map drawing process, but ultimately this is up to the decision of California voters, whereas the CRC, which we respect, we want to make sure that there's a nationwide citizen redistricting commission, but the reality is we are in an emergency, and this is our emergency response. We're giving Californians over 2.5 months to review these maps thoroughly and make a decision on whether or not we move forward with this constitutional amendment.
Well, it doesn't look like Sabrina's going to give us much help, but let's give her another chance.
So is the State Senate Elections Committee, we drew these maps. Like, you're ready to say that. So the Senate Rules Committee put these maps, the census tracks, onto the website. So legislators drew the maps. Can we say that to our viewers? Again, this was from CRC's criteria. Millions of these criteria. Right. We need to know who created the maps. Was it Paul Mitchell? Paul Mitchell strategy? There was input. Again, from testimony. It was drew them out. It was testimony that was given to the CRC by whom remaining consistent, making sure we're keeping communities of interest together. Don't they deserve to know who drew these maps? Again, this is the most transparent process. So then who drew the maps? This is the most transparent process. You're not interested in that.
Well, one thing we can be sure of from California Democrats is they are telling us it is the most transparent process ever.
So the two women you just saw there, again, they are the leaders of the legislature's elections committees. Neither would really tell us who is responsible for these maps.
So there you have it. It's the most transparent process ever to save democracy. Anyways, what do you guys think about all that?
Well, I didn't draw the map.
That's eliminated one person out of the 30-something million here in California.
As I said before, there are no good guys in this whole gerrymandering process. Okay, they like to call it redistricting, but we know it's gerrymandering they're talking about. There are no good guys here, but you could always count on the Democrats to go into the Orwellian mode. They're trying to cover up who actually drew those maps, and yet they're telling us, oh, it's the most transparent process we have ever engaged in. Really? This is the kind of damn nonsense. I mean, at least Texas didn't hide who was drawing the maps. The Republicans were doing it. We know that for sure. Even though I don't like the whole gerrymandering process, but we knew who drew the maps. Well, here in California, oh, it seemed like it's a classified secret. Nobody wanted to tell us who drew the maps. And we're supposed to go vote on this thing come November. This is sick shit. Oh, my apologies. Sick excretia.
Don't worry, Leon. We won't tell anybody who said that.
But we have to remain the most transparent show on the internet.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is just nuts. But it's not the only thing that is processed. It's being, I guess, pulled on right now. I mean, one of the other things that I guess came up recently is James Carville, and he is a well-known Democrat strategist, I guess, who's been responsible for several, I think, successful presidential campaigns by the Democrats. He has been very vocal about the fact that there's a whole bunch of processes that he wants to norms that he wants to break if the Democrats get back in power. He is saying that he wants to add states, and he is saying that he also thinks that they should add Supreme Court justices. And he isn't the only one. But if you want to hear all about that, you're going to have to, if you're watching on public access, you're going to have to tune in online at knuckleheadsofliberty.com to catch the rest of it, because we are out of time for public access. So, so go check us out there, along with a lot of other of our past shows. But anyways, let's get back into this whole issue of other norms that are going to be broken. So before I show you any more of the visuals here, let's show you the little video that kind of gives you a background on some of this.
If the Democrats win the presidency, the Senate and the House in 2028, which is not impossible, I don't know if you say likely or possible, I don't know what word but it's certainly not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Congress does give, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they go do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it, and they may have to expand the court.
Let's see. That it looks like that was freezing up. Let's give it another try. Did you guys see it freezing up on your end, or?
No, I heard Carville's nonsense quite clearly.
Oh, okay. It was freezing up on my end. Okay. I'll give it another try here. On my end, it looked like it was freezing up, so I didn't want to just leave the audience hanging there. Let's try it again. Hope they can cut it right here.
If the Democrats win the presidency, the Senate and the House in 2028, which is not impossible. I don't know if you say likely or possible. I don't know what word but it's certainly not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Congress does give, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they go do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it. And they may have to expand the court to 13 members. Any of those things in isolation, I would be skeptical about. I would be cautious about. I would say, well, I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. You're opening Pandora's box, or all kinds of things. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things.
So what Carville is proposing is not illegal. It is simply a breaking of the norms. But you can see this is a perilous path if both parties go down that road. But to show you that this is just not simply James Carville's view, well, let's hear what Chuck Schumer has had to say on expanding the number of states in order to get more electoral votes in Congress.
Today, the House of Representatives will pass a bill granting the District of Columbia official statehood. I applaud my House Democratic colleagues.
And here is Senator Elizabeth Warren making her case for expanding the number of justices on the Supreme Court in order to try to get a majority there.
We need to expand the Supreme Court, and here's why. For decades, the Republican Party has been chipping away at the foundation of our democracy. They use broken rules like the filibuster and the Electoral College to control the White House and Congress, even when they win fewer votes.
But as we can see in the previous story on redistricting and gerrymandering between censuses and this isn't just Democrats. I mean, Republicans are engaging in these breaking of the norms too. In fact, it wasn't very long ago that Donald Trump, through the stroke of a pen, literally changed the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. So this is kind of where we are, folks.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
So there you go, breaking norms right and left, and this is this is stuff that they just want to keep on finding ways to get the numbers to work out for them so that they can wield that club of government. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, if I could start, I don't think you can compare the Gulf of America name change to the politicization, like bringing another state or District of Columbia or Puerto Rico in as a 51st, 52nd state. That's quite a big difference. As dumb as changing the name of a body of water was, in my humble opinion. But it's not hardly the same thing. And personally, I think there should be a constitutional amendment made to limit the number of states as it is now, 50 states. Why? Because enough country, enough land and people are under the auspices of what goes on in Washington, D.C., including D.C. itself, that enough's enough, okay? We've got top-down central planning emanating from the White House now, affecting enough people in the world already. Okay, we don't need more. 50 is a nice round number. Just drop it. Okay, make it illegal and just off the table. I know they'll never do that. Why? Because everybody, this is like saying eliminate the central bank. Okay, or let's go to the gold standard. I understand. It's just but that lady, what's her name?
Elizabeth Warren.
Liz Warren.
Belly aching about the Electoral College. Okay, seriously. I mean, that's the foundation of basically a federalized republic, which is what we are. We're not a democracy. We're a federalized republic. We have democratic portions of it, but the people elect the representatives, which is representative, a Republican federalized situation. And the Electoral College is all about that. It's just part of that whole federalized apparatus, and so it's not a rule. It's the Electoral College. It's not a rule. It's a foundational aspect of our Republican democracy. I'll call it a Republican democracy, or whatever you want to call it, or a democratic republic. I don't care.
A representative republic is what it really is.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's a representative republic, and the representatives are elected democratically. Okay, so here we are. Now, so that's where I'm at. Call me old-fashioned, and yes, my idea of limiting the states is never going to fly. Also, the Supreme Court. I mean, how many people you want? 100, 200? I mean, what's, just cap it. Seriously. How many justices do you have to have under the employ of a country $37 trillion in debt already? Not that that's nothing but a drop in the bucket. I get it, but ludicrous. It's all ludicrous. It's just all this politics. I'm so sick of it. I'm just sick to death of it. Politics and everything, including the weather. What's it feel like in your neck of the woods?
Well, we can't get away from politics. Okay, we live in a representative republic, Tim, so there's no way to get away from that. But what we have to do is to limit the amount of idiots we have representing us, or at least limit the length of time they represent us, or limit some of the voices that we hear. I don't want to take away anybody's free speech rights. I mean, James Carville is sure he led 2 successful presidential campaigns, but I mean, this man is an idiot to suggest that Congress could turn the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C., into a state. Congress cannot do that. It requires a constitutional amendment. So they can probably initiate it, but then they still have to send it out into the states to get it to change it. Washington, D.C. is specifically designated, that entire area is specifically designated as the capital of the United States of America, and it's under federal control. They'll have to get a constitutional amendment of some kind to change that. And this idiot seems to not even realize it. But what James Carville is speaking about is just stuff that benefits the Democrats. Just look at it. He wants to expand the courts, okay? But who you think he wants to make these elections for the courts? He say he wants to take it from its present 9 to 13. Who you think he wants to pick those 4 justices? You know why they want to do that? Because they don't like the current makeup of the court. Like, these people never heard the expression that election has consequences. That's what has happened. We have a conservative court. I am glad we do, okay? Because at least they try to get some semblance, keep some semblance of the republic intact, rather than having all these crazy ass ideas running around trying to pass as precedents for us to follow. But the point is, though, the main point here is we cannot allow these rogue misfits to dictate how this representative republic should run its affairs. Because the Democrats right now have found themselves in a very difficult position. All of a sudden now we have to jump and whine and cater for them. No, the elections determining these things, and this nonsense have to stop.
But this is sort of the paradox, though, because I mean, both of you guys are saying we need to do this, we need to do that, but ultimately, I mean, the only thing that can solve this is if we all just realize we can't use government, or we shouldn't use government to try and force things on other people. I mean, it's like that tool is what we have to use, and yet that tool is being used by somebody else to beat us over the head with. And it's sort of like a battle for the club, and everybody is saying, we got to win, or, the other side's going to hit us harder. And, to me, that it's like the libertarians are the only ones who are saying anything that's coherent here, which is the problem is government. People have to understand that government can't be the solution to their problems, or we're always going to be reaching for that club of government to beat the other side over the head with. And
we're that's even more pie in the sky than my ideas, because we're a minority. I mean, the vast majority want to use the club to beat everybody else over the head. I'm sorry. And what's to stop the Republicans from packing the court with 4 new justices, all as conservative as can be? What's to stop? It's got a couple more years, 3 more years to do that. Can't they do that too? I mean, if there's going to be packing of the court, so like you say, Leon, be careful what you wish for. And that gal that wants, to get rid of the Electoral College and, make it just strict democracy. I know where she's going. It's just they want us to be like France or some, idiotic nation like that, where it's the majority rules. Okay. It's 2 wolves and a sheep sitting down to figure out what's for dinner. And there's no rule of law regarding, well, they're very little. I mean, they have their little, I'm sure they have their little rules and laws about, about how to conduct an election, but it's all just the vast majority rules, no matter what. So whatever the majority thinks, they can do whatever they want. And, whereas as opposed to ours is as a structure called a constitution that's just totally ignored anyway. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just so frustrating. I mean, the whole thing has fallen apart. It's just a complete, I don't know. It's a cluster.
Well, what I am trying to say, I think what I'm trying to say is that I would like us to truly return to our constitutional framework. That's what I want. Let's return to that. I don't think that is too pie in the sky to ask, because I think what should stand above all is our individual liberties and our individual freedoms. That should stand above all. That is how this country was founded. I want to go back to that founding principle, that even though we're going to always have politicians always looking at ways to acquire power and then maintain that power, we'll always have that. But we have to have better guardrails upon the Constitution such that it cannot be ignored as it is right now. You're correct about that, Tim. They just ignore the Constitution. They do whatever they want, and they come along, and next thing they say, oh, this is so nice and constitutional. No, we should follow it. No, we have to have better guardrails. And this is one of the problems I think we have. We don't have enough guardrails in the Constitution to take care of some of the obvious problems that is ongoing in society.
Well, speaking of guardrails, that really brings us back to the most important amendment, the First Amendment. Although maybe Tim will argue it's the second, but I think it's the first. But as far as that goes, Trump, in all of his wisdom, has decided that the big thing now to push is an executive order to ban burning of the flag. And, this is kind of something that's been kind of adjudicated before. I will say there's a little bit more nuance than you usually hear about it in the news, but let's watch a quick news piece so that we can see what's behind this story.
President Trump signed an executive order at the White House Monday, which he says would require an automatic 1-year jail sentence for anybody who burns an American flag. But that's at odds with the ruling from the Supreme Court 36 years ago that declared flag burning an act of free speech protected by the First Amendment.
So, of course, no sooner than had Trump signed it than someone was already challenging it.
There's a First Amendment right to burn the American flag.
I know that I'm living in Trump's head right now, and I love it. He is just fuming. I did it right in front of his house.
That's Jay Carey setting fire to an American flag at Lafayette Park across from the White House last night. It was a little after 6 p.m. Carey, a combat veteran from North Carolina who spent more than 20 years in the U.S. Army, was detained by the Secret Service and then the U.S. Park Police, issued 2 citations, not for burning the flag, but for setting fire in an unsecured place and for damaging park property.
And that was a really important point in case you didn't catch that, that he was being arrested for burning the flag in an insecure place and damaging park property. He wasn't actually arrested and charged for burning the flag, which is kind of what that executive order was supposed to be getting to.
It wasn't a matter of disrespecting the flag. I'm a veteran. I fought under that flag, with that flag, for that flag. It's a matter of protesting against what the president was putting out in an executive order because he feels he can do anything that he wants, and that's just not the case.
And here is the website, the White House website, and this is up there now. And this is something, too, it apparently one of the ways that this is different, because this has been in front of the Supreme Court before, but he's apparently saying it can't be done, I guess, in a way that incites mob violence. I think that's what's written into the order. So unfortunately, I don't have that order in front of me right this second, but and here's the story about the guy getting arrested that we just saw. So anyway, this is, what do you guys think about this particular thing? Because it does seem like this is a free speech issue. I think a lot of us are kind of on the side that we don't want to see the American flag burn, but I guess by saying that you're going to throw people in jail if they burn their own flag, that somehow that's destroying what the actual flag stands for. So what do you guys think about this?
I think number one, Donald Trump is completely wrong about this. Okay. I don't think he has any authority to stop anyone, any American citizen or anybody residing in the United States for that matter, anyone from burning an American flag. Now, personally, my own personal view, I think it's quite disgusting to desecrate that flag. I think that flag means a lot to a lot of people, to a lot of our fellow countrymen. Some people have fought, some people have died to defend that flag. But I do not believe that in a country founded on liberty and freedoms, with a First Amendment that says we have free speech, that anybody should be arrested or charged for burning that flag. As much as it will hurt my heart to see that flag being burned, I don't think Donald Trump or anyone or any president or any law enforcement should be arresting anyone for doing so.
Yeah, I agree with Leon, but I'll go a little further. I'll say if you bring your own flag to the flag burning ceremony, matter of fact, if you look at the Boy Scout handbook, it's of course done in reverence, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and so on. But the proper way of disposing an old flag is by burning. Okay, it's in the Boy Scout manual. You can look it up, or you can just Google it. But that's it. We're talking burning a flag in protest for, just like I'm angry with whatever's going on. I'm going to burn the flag. You bring your own flag. You can burn your own flags all day long. You paid for them. They belong to you. You can burn them. I agree with Leon. I don't like, that method of protest. I would never do it myself, but they have the right to do that. But just don't go ripping down somebody else's flag. Don't go pulling a flag down off of the courthouse flagpole and burn their flag. It's not your flag. You cannot do that. You're destroying someone else's property. Okay. Even if it belongs to the people. So you can get arrested for that. But no, Donald Trump does not have, hey, what's with the executive branch? Are they just why do we even have Congress? Okay, let's just get rid of the legislative branch. Just send them all home, stop their paychecks, and just let Trump just put a law for everything. He's the king.
Right, executive order, and just hold every executive order.
Exactly. Okay, if he's the king, if he can do this, okay, we do not need three branches. As a matter of fact, get rid of the judicial branch too, because if he can do whatever he wants, then we don't need a judicial branch that's going to decide whether or not it's constitutional for him to do whatever he wants. Okay, so stop the nonsense. Just appoint him king, or he can appoint himself king. He's already done it. And then we'll just get rid of it. He should just fire everybody, fire the whole shooting match. Okay. And then all these Elizabeth, what's her name, and all these people can go home and get a real job, because we don't need them anymore. We have Donald King Trump in the White House.
Yeah. It's funny, we all pretty much agree, I think, on the issue here that it should not be illegal to burn your own flag, I guess, if you own it, and to make that statement. And as long as you're not like taking it into a crowded movie theater and burning it or something like that, right? But I do think that there is a certain political brilliance to Trump on this particular move, because even though we all think this is constitutionally incorrect, what he's doing, he is doing this, and it's going to incite a lot of the people who I think are pissing people off in some of these street protests to then immediately whip out an American flag and start burning it. And suddenly, and especially when Trump is sending military and police into places, it's going to make people more sympathetic toward his side of the government, I guess, doing whatever he is doing. And I also will say too, I mean, there is a hypocrisy among the left on this issue, because even though we all realize you should be able to burn the American flag if that's what you want, we don't think you should, again, just to reiterate, but we all think that should be your constitutional right. What we do see on the left is that if you are burning a gay pride flag, suddenly they're throwing people in jail for decades, some cases, which is absolutely nuts. Say that it's unconstitutional to burn the American flag, and then suddenly, oh boy, you burn the wrong tribe's flag, and you're going to jail, which is
so same rules apply. Your flag,
Exactly.
your thing, your possession. You can do whatever you want with your own possession. You can burn your own car. You want to burn your own car, okay? Long as you now you got to dispose of it, et cetera, et cetera. You got to, now, and if you don't, you can be fined for the removal of the car and so on. Okay, so burn whatever you want to burn, your personal possession, and then pick it up, clean it up. Don't let somebody else clean it up. Now you have to clean it up. And I don't care what flag it is. I don't care if it's a gay pride flag or American flag or whatever. Just take responsibility.
Yeah.
The thing is though, nothing signifies the destruction of a great republic as when we start making special you're carving out special things in law for certain people. So, like for instance, you're throwing people in jail because they took a gay pride flag and burned it, but you think it's okay to burn an American flag. Okay, these special carve out that we seem to want in the law, that is quite rampant in our society these days. Like we had the January 6th riots, and there are a lot of people who were prosecuted. Well, Trump have pardoned nearly all of them. But in 2020, they burned down our cities. And I don't know how many people have been prosecuted because of that. But you know what? I bet you was not a lot. So we getting in this society where the rule of law is paramount, where people are demanding we have these little special carve-outs, these little special dispensation of justice, so that my tribe could have their own way, but everybody else cannot. This is a dangerous trend. Whether we're talking about flag burning, whether we're talking about rioting, whether we're talking about burning religious texts, or whatever the hell it is we're talking about. Anytime you're talking about special dispensations of justice, we're on a dangerous path to hell. God help us.
Well, and in these cases, a lot of these people were arrested and put in jail because they stole a flag that didn't belong to them and burned it. But it's hard to imagine that in any of these cases that should be more than a few days in jail, for taking somebody's flag and burning it. A lot of times at these protests, we see somebody grab somebody's sign and destroy it. And a lot of people don't even go to jail for that. So, this is just kind of nuts. And if we saw that guy who just got arrested for burning the American flag in front of the White House, he was literally out within 4 hours. So, I think that's great that, that's a really minor type of infraction. The guy was burning a flag in this public area. And it wasn't actually because it was the American flag. It was just because he burned it there. And that wasn't allowed. So they took him and they threw him in jail, and then he got out. But, we've got to, like Leon is saying, one standard. And then same thing with Tim. The same rules should apply to both flags. It's just absolutely nuts that we're setting all these tribal rules for different things. So
exactly.
There's more to the story with the guy that burned the gay flag, though. Although 15 years, I mean, you don't give 15 years to murderers these days. Rapists, okay, but he stole the flag from the local gay church, and then he came back to the club and burned the flag. But he also threatened to burn down the bar and made threats to patrons in the bar. So I think there's a little more to it. I don't know that it deserves 15 years, but the guy needs to cool down.
Sure.
And suffer some consequences here.
Yeah, you should have a Bud Light.
But the point is, though, Tim, okay, you raise those issues, and I'm with you on that. Then charge a guy for stealing property. then charge a guy for making threats to, to private property, those sort of things. That's fine. Do that. I don't have no problem with that. But don't charge a guy because of some kind of hate, for some kind of hate crime because he burned a gay pride flag. No, that is nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, he did say that he hates gays, and that he
okay,
was.
That's his right to say that. That's his right to say that.
Well, true. But it's not his right to threaten to harm these people. Is that his right, or what?
No. I'm not suggesting that is his right. I am saying, well, he threatened to burn down this place and that kind of stuff. That does not fall under protected speech. Okay, so I am saying you charge a guy for stealing property. Okay, I don't care whether it was a gay flag or something else. He stole some property. You charge a guy for attempted, if you want to say attempted arson at some location, whatever, and that kind of stuff. That's fine. But I don't see how this comes some kind of the flag, and he ate homosexuals or whatever he said, and stuff like that. All of these things comes up to some hate crime of some kind. This is where I have my problem of what these things that they call hate crimes. I don't even know what the hell that means, quite frankly. But don't charge the guy for things related to somebody's race or somebody's stuff. Charge a guy for things he actually do, or he attempted to do, or he intended to do, as long as you can prove it in court.
Okay. Yeah. So they found him guilty of hate crime harassment. That maybe have an issue with that. Reckless use of fire, and being a habitual offender. So apparently he's done this more than once. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that
even threats more than once does seem excessive for putting somebody in jail for more than a few months unless they've actually demonstrated some real violence, right? I mean,
agree.
Yeah, 15 years seems excessive.
Yeah,
very excessive. Very, I agree.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny because aside from this crosswalk story too that a lot of people heard about, where they painted a pride crosswalk and somebody left their tire marks on it, and so they went after him for that. But there was a case too of another Iowa man. So apparently this is a thing in Iowa. I don't know. But he was given time served, and the person who was speaking out for the LGBTQ community was very upset. They felt like he had not had to, by given time served, that was not enough. So, I mean, there's, a lot of people who both for the American flag and the pride flag, they want blood when they see their flags burned. But anyways, so I think that's probably a good point to jump off onto our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, I guess. And in this takes us to California, and just, some of the nutty stuff that we see with our current governor here, who assumes he's running for president already. But he has, there was this interesting case where a company that was trying to get back up on its feet put out a post that said they were having difficulty getting back into California, and Governor Newsom didn't put a hand out to help out. He kind of put a hand out to push them away. Let's see what that's about.
Bed Bath & Beyond CEO calling out California in a statement Wednesday, 2 years after the company filed for bankruptcy and closed all of its stores nationwide. Now stores are slated to reopen across the country, except in California. That statement reading in part, "This decision isn't about politics, it's about reality. California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers."
So do we expect any sympathy from Gavin Newsom or constructive communication on how to keep businesses going to California? Let's find out.
Governor Gavin Newsom's office responding to the CEO's comments snarkily on social media, saying they wish the company well on becoming relevant again.
Instead, we get this antagonistic response from the governor's office saying they didn't even know his business even existed anymore, but that they wished him luck in bringing his business back to some kind of relevance again. Just absolutely nuts if you want a pro-business environment in the state. Let's find out a little bit more about how he's doing with other businesses.
High taxes, crime, riots, a rising minimum wage, and never-ending red tape. That's the reality business owners face every day in California. It's driving residents and companies out of the state, but California's governor appears to be too busy on social media to notice or care. Newsom firing off on X at the news that Bed Bath & Beyond would not open any new retail stores in California due to an unfriendly business environment. You can see what he wrote right there. Of course.
So clearly Gavin Newsom isn't doing very well retaining business. In fact, he seems to be driving out a bunch of refineries at the moment. But let's hear from Marcus Lemonis, the chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond himself.
I think you were trying to communicate to him in good faith.
I did.
You weren't trying to be snarky.
Nope.
But he came back to you purely on the basis of snark and antagonism.
Let's look at the math. When you compare the 50 states that you're going to do business in and you're going to invest into opening up a retail facility or buying one, you have to think about the space itself, which is expensive in California, the consumer base, which is unbelievable in California, the average income, which is unbelievable in California, and all of that gets absolutely purged by what it costs to do business in California between the legal process, the labor process, the regulatory process. At the end, the yield is just so bad. Wow. It's awful. And we just wanted to say to the governor, we don't want to open in California because we believe that it's cost prohibitive. What I thought was going to happen, because it was a very intellectual, forward-thinking discussion, what I thought would happen was, hey, boy, we don't like that. Yeah. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. You're wrong. I'm right. Sit down. Listen to me. Let me tell you all the reasons why you should bring your company here.
Tom,
and he didn't. It happened. The opposite happened. He told me, right. You don't know what you're talking about.
I haven't.
So there you have it. That's that's our great governor there. As we find more and more debt and the prices on everything just keep going up, and he's pushing companies out. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, well, if Bed Bath & Beyond had stores all over the nation and they did go bankrupt, right?
Yeah, they already did. Yeah.
Okay, so they filed bankruptcy. They're trying to restructure, and they're going to try to salvage what they have. I mean, they're mainly the victim of the internet and online purchases. It's their main competitor now. So it's not just about California. Although if you're going to still have brick and mortar stores, you're going to have to really consider this whole California thing. Yes, there's lots of money here, but at the same time, it costs a lot of money to tap into it. And it may be prohibitive. It sounds like it's just prohibitive for him to do that. And Gavin Newsom's not going to make any changes and, to welcome businesses like that in. So, we'll see what happens in the long run when all these businesses leave and never come back. And, we'll see if Gavin Newsom continues to get elected again and again and again and again, because he's like Mr. Popular amongst the vast majority of left-leaning Californians, which vast majority are. So let's see what happens, and let's also wish Bed Bath & Beyond good luck. Too bad they can't have somebody that's on their side in California, and they're just going to have to do it on their own elsewhere. And let's see how they do. I do wish them luck, although not snarkily.
But the problem here, this whole Bed Bath and Beyond, this whole issue is underlying a very big problem of doing business here in California. I mean, the minimum wage, I think, in California right now is like $16.50. Could you imagine that? Right? A little kid who probably still in college, go to a store, a grocery store, maybe Bed Bath and Beyond if they were still here in California, or if they were trying to get back in California. Some little kid, 17 years old, still in high school, living with their parents, and this outfit has to pay this little kid almost $17 an hour to work in their store. Who want to do business under those conditions? And then on top of that, think about the amount of regulations and red tape that there is here in California. Who wants to do business under those conditions? Are we then surprised that you see all of these businesses, just like Tim was raising, all of these businesses are leaving and going to Florida, going to Texas, Tennessee, Utah to some extent? People are leaving the state. Businesses are leaving the state. And still this fool of a governor that we have here cannot understand why. San Francisco, one of the greatest cities that we have known, is nothing but a mess hole right now. And businesses are leaving there in abundance. All the major pharmacies and that kind of stuff, Walgreens and all that, are closing stores down there. And still, the fool of a governor can't understand why. It's basic economics. If you have to do business, you need a friendly environment. If you can't do business, if the environment is not friendly, nobody's going to do business. What does it take? I have to hit you over the head with a club for you to understand this? This is so ridiculous, it's unbelievable.
I'll tell you what it takes. I'll tell you exactly what it takes. It takes him to lose an election, and he doesn't. He never, ever loses. He wins every election. He even wins when they try to kick him out on a special election. He wins that one. So, I mean, it's like he doesn't care. He doesn't care that businesses are leaving California. All he cares about is one thing and one thing only. Am I going to be the governor again? Now it's going to be, am I going to be the president? That's all he cares about. He does not care about any of this other stuff, Leon. So he just flat, in my opinion, does not think the same way you and I do. And therein lies the crux of the problem here.
Well, for a governor who only thinks about, who always talks about how all he's thinking about is the environment, the last thing on his mind is the business environment. He just makes it so tough. And I mean, in reality, a politician, whether it be a mayor of a town or a governor of a state, it's not about changing the rules to bring a business in, but it's about helping businesses to navigate the rules that they have as best they can to make it as easy as possible for them to figure out how they can do business. And here we see a company that's saying they have problems with that, and Newsom, decides to push back on them like they insulted him or something. Just absolutely nuts. And it's like, who does he think is going to pay for all this largesse in government? If these businesses go away, if the jobs go away, it's the tax base that funds the government. And if, the state can't print its own money. So, they can go into debt with bonds, but they can't print their own money. So there's a limit to what they can do here. And it's absolutely nuts.
Well, Margaret Thatcher once said, socialism never works because you always run out of other people's money. Sooner or later, California is going to run out of other people's money, and then they will understand this damn nonsense that they are presently doing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good note to end things on. And again, if you're watching, tune in next week, and we'll be talking about Constitution Day with Michelle LeMay and how that's going to work out here in Sacramento. So that should be a nice event for people who are tired of watching politicians trample on their constitutional rights. But until the next show, think about what you can do in your community to participate and help move the ball for liberty. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.